0. That's the number that should have been the headline. Not 26 points. Not the triple-double. Not the record count that lit up every sports feed. 0. Because buried inside one of the most statistically loaded performances in WNBA history is a single split that most people scrolled right past. And it tells you more about where Caitlin Clark actually is as a player than any milestone. Every rebound she pulled down came off the defensive glass. 10 boards. 0 from the offensive end. Defensive rebounds require positioning, awareness, timing. A guard going for 10 defensive boards is not an accident. It's a statement about where her game has quietly gone while everyone else was counting records. And that's before we get to the number buried deeper in the box score. The one with no comparison anywhere in league history. July 31st, 2026. Moda Center, Portland, Oregon. Indiana Fever 112, Portland Fire 98. The Fever's 5th straight win. 9th victory in last 11 games. Record now 19-10. Good enough for 4th place in the entire league. Not 4th in the East. 4th overall. For a franchise that spent years being the punchline of every competitive balance conversation, that number deserves to be read twice. Caitlin Clark's line, 26 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists, 34 minutes. 4th career triple-double, 1st this season. She now owns more triple-doubles than any guard in WNBA history. That is worth pausing on. The WNBA has run professional basketball for nearly 3 decades. Elite guards at every stage. Not one owns that particular line the way she does now. 6 Indiana players finished in double figures. Kelsey Mitchell matched her with 26. Monique Billings added 15. Sophie Cunningham dropped 13 off the bench. Michaela Timpson attacked the rim in the 4th quarter. Portland fell to 11-18. 4 straight defeats. A young franchise still figuring out what this level demands. The Fire had moments in the first half, then watched Indiana pull away in a 3rd quarter that felt like a gears shift. Now, the records. The number circulating online was 12. 12 records in a single night. Here's what's genuinely historic. Early in the 1st quarter, Clark pushed her career point total past 1,578 games. She also became the fastest player in WNBA history to reach 1,500 points and 651 assists combined. Sue Bird needed 116 games to reach that same combined milestone. Clark did it in 78. That's 38 games of separation. Nearly an entire additional half-season. That is genuinely historic. Full stop. No asterisk required. But here's the honest part. The 12 record number that went viral is slicing the same achievement into thinner pieces and counting each slice separately. Fastest to 1,500 points and 500 assists. Fastest to 1,500 and 600. Fastest to 1,500 and 651. That's one historic combination measured at 3 checkpoints, counted 3 times. Same with the triple-double. 4th career triple-double is one number. Tied for 3rd most all-time is a different angle. Most ever by a guard is a 3rd angle on that same number. Strip the duplicates. Be honest about what remains. You're left with roughly 5 or 6 genuinely distinct league marks. Not 12. 5 or 6 is still absurd for one game. But inflating it to 12 undermines the real achievements. The truth is impressive enough on its own. Which leads to the second uncomfortable thing. Portland is a first-year expansion franchise. Roster assembled from scratch 12 months ago. Players who weren't good enough to stick elsewhere. 11-18 coming in. 4 straight defeats. Indiana's 5-game 100-point streak is real. Longest in WNBA history. But 3 of those came against teams outside the playoff picture. Except, and this saves the whole thing, Portland isn't a pushover. This exact team, in this exact building, held Clark to 6 points 2 months ago. 6. On 1 of 7 shooting. Indiana lost by 16. Friday wasn't a comfortable night against a pushover. It was a rematch. Rewind to May 30th, 2026. Portland Fire 100, Indiana Fever 84. Clark, 6 points, 1 of 7, 6 assists, 2 rebounds, 22 minutes, 5 fouls with her 4th coming in the 3rd quarter. That 4th foul in the 3rd quarter is a coach's nightmare. Sit your best player or leave her and pray she doesn't foul out. Portland didn't jump out and collapse. They led from the opening possession. 29-15 after the first. 44-26 in the second. 50-37 at halftime. Pushed it to 25 in the third. Megan Gustafson dropped 22. Carla Leidy went for 18 and 12 assists. Emily Engsler had 16 and 10 rebounds. Those were the first two double-doubles in Portland Fire franchise history, in front of 19,347 people who treated it like a playoff venue. There's another layer. Clark didn't play in Indiana's previous Portland meeting on May 21st because of a back injury. The league sent Indiana a formal warning for failing to meet injury reporting requirements. The Fever won that game 109-73 without her. Then she came back 9 days later and Portland swarmed her like no team had all season. She's missed more time this year with that same back. She only returned recently. Stephanie White has been managing her minutes, keeping her under 35 a night. This changes how you read Friday's numbers. What Clark did July 31st wasn't just a great performance. It was a specific, intentional response to the worst result of her professional career, in the exact building, against the exact team. That reveals character and growth that box scores can't capture. Portland's May game plan: bump her, crowd her, put two bodies on her, get her in foul trouble early, execute without a single breakdown for 32 minutes. Indiana's counter on Friday: get downhill, absorb contact, make officials decide if it's a foul. Trust enough decisions go the right way. She lived at the line. 14-4-17. 17 attempts. 8 more than any other player. The next most fouled player attempted 9. That's a guard putting her shoulder into defenders 17 times. Not settling for jumpers. Driving downhill. Converting enough to make the strategy unsustainable. By the third quarter, Portland's defenders were hesitating. That hesitation gave Clark space to turn a tight game into a comfortable lead. The adjustment is what the headline numbers are actually measuring. The 26 points, triple-double, records, those are outputs. The input was a fundamental change in how she attacked the paint against a scheme that had previously beaten her. Now, the number nobody has said out loud. Coming into Portland, Clark averaged 7.9 assists in 29.4 minutes. That's roughly 9.7 assists per 36 minutes. She's generating that while averaging 21.2 points, third in the league. Nobody in WNBA history has carried that combination, scoring volume and creation rate, compressed into that few minutes. It doesn't exist anywhere in the record books. Not from any guard. Not from any era. Most elite floor generals need 34 or 35 minutes to reach 9 assists. Clark is producing that rate in under 30 because her coach is pulling her to protect a bad back. That's the number with no precedent. Not the triple-double. Not the point total. The rate. The tax: she's averaging 4.7 turnovers. That's high. That's the single most legitimate criticism of her season. But as a rookie, she averaged 5.6. She's cut nearly a full turnover while raising her assist rate, scoring efficiency, and compressing everything into fewer minutes. She's 44% from the field, 35% from 3, 87% from the line. Those numbers represent a player actively solving the problem critics were loudest about 2 years ago. Kelsey Mitchell matched Clark's output point for point. 26 points. Her 13th consecutive game scoring 20 or more. That ties Diana Taurasi for second longest in league history. Only Aya Wilson's 15-game run sits above it. Diana Taurasi is arguably the greatest scorer in women's basketball history. Aya Wilson is the reigning MVP. Mitchell is now in that conversation. She also hit the three-pointer that pushed her to 749 career makes from beyond the arc, passing Tina Thompson for 6th all-time. The way she did it Friday: let Clark run the first half. Let the defense exhaust itself. Then detonated for 11 points in the third and 8 more in the fourth. Aaliyah Boston, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 steals. Those steals converted to transition buckets at crucial moments. She also climbed to third in franchise history in career field goals made. Monique Billings added 15. Michaela Timpson attacked the rim in the fourth. That depth solves Indiana's biggest problem. Last year, the Fever were dangerously dependent on one player. The moment Clark sat, the offense stalled. It is fixed now. 6 players in double figures is clear evidence. Sophie Cunningham. What happened at the Moda Center every time she checked in deserves its own section. The Portland crowd booed her loudly. Consistently. Starting midway through the first quarter. Fans waved transgender pride flags whenever Cunningham touched the ball. The context: Cunningham made comments in a national profile that sparked immediate backlash. Rallies were organized outside the arena on game night. Whatever your position on the politics, look at what she did on the floor. 13 points. 4 of 6 from the field. 3 of 5 from 3. Plus minus of plus 18. Second best in the building behind Clark's plus 23. She missed 2 shots all night in a hostile environment. That's professional composure. Her words before tip-off. At the end of the day, she comes in, does her job, and that is what she is focused on. The scoreboard agreed. Stephanie White refused to let the post-game become about Cunningham. She said the group wants to focus on basketball and growing as a team. She also addressed the triple-double, or rather, how little attention she paid to it. She didn't even recognize Clark had won until the locker room. What she was focused on, defensive rebounding. Which loops back to that 0 from the opening. Here's the question the highlight reels skipped. What does Indiana's offense look like adjusted for quality of opponent? 5 straight 100-point games is unprecedented. But 3 came against teams outside the playoff picture. Portland was surrendering points freely. The next 3 weeks stripped that kindness away. Minnesota on August 2nd. Las Vegas Aces on August 6th. Chicago on August 8th. Minnesota has one of the most disciplined defensive systems. Las Vegas has more playoff experience than any roster Indiana will face. Chicago has the personnel to make Clark uncomfortable. If Indiana scores triple digits against that gauntlet, if Clark produces at this rate against defenses that can slow her, this is a legitimate title caliber offense. Championship contender, stops being aspirational. If the numbers fall off significantly, Friday was a historic night with an expansion-flavored asterisk. My honest read, split the difference, and lean toward believing. Not because of the point total. Not because of the records. Because of the assist rate. Piling up points against a weak opponent is possible. Inflating a scoring line against a defense that isn't fully committed tells you almost nothing. Inflating a creation rate in protected minutes against a team that already beat you is different. You can't manufacture 9.7 assists per 36 minutes by opponent weakness. Assists require teammates to make shots. Require vision and decision-making that doesn't change based on defense. Either you see the floor at that level or you don't. Clark clearly does. The 78-game milestone doesn't weaken against era adjustments. Sue Bird needed 116 games to reach the same combined mark. You don't accidentally reach a milestone in 38 fewer games than the greatest point guard in league history. 62 days ago, Clark walked into the Moda Center and had the worst scoring night of her career. 1 of 7. 6 points. Foul trouble. A loss that was never close. Friday night, she walked back into that exact building against that exact team and produced more verified historical achievements than any single WNBA game in recent memory. 26 points. 10 rebounds. 10 assists. Historic assist rate in 34 minutes. Aggression at the line. Defensive rebounding her coach highlighted as most consistent growth. The specific adjustment that made Portland's May game plan irrelevant. That is not luck. That is not a favorable matchup. That is a correction. A direct, intentional response to failure, delivered with the precision that separates talented players from truly great ones. The question worth sitting with tonight is not which records deserve. Historic. The real question is whether we're watching the construction of something the WNBA has never seen. A guard who scores at elite volume. Creates at unprecedented rate. Defends with intention. Adjusts when the game demands it. All in under 30 minutes per night. With a bad back. On a franchise that wasn't competitive 3 years ago. That's either a record-setting title season being written, or the most compelling statistical outlier in a decade, about to meet its match. The Aces game is in 5 days. We're going to find out which version is closer to the truth. Subscribe to Hoops Uncovered for breakdowns that actually tell you what happened, not what headlines want you to believe. Hit subscribe. Turn on notifications. We'll see you after the Aces game.